I'll be interested to get your thoughts, to start the show off on, the guys that have interviewed for this job so far. Do you think these is guys that, they just kind of doing a due diligence with, or are these men serious candidates in your opinion?
So I go back to on Monday when Andrew Berry spoke. One of the quotes he had was about how, when Kevin got hired here, and obviously he wasn't here yet at that time when Kevin Stefanski got hired. They were the only team that cycle that even interviewed Kevin Stefanski. And I think he's I didn't go back and verify that, but I'm pretty sure he's right about that. The Browns were the only team or one of the only teams that interviewed Kevin Stefanski that cycle, and then he got hired for the job. And listen, I understand it ended sort of unceremoniously, and he's not here anymore, and people were ready for a change. But I think Browns fans can look back on the Kevin Stefanski era and feel like, yeah, there was successes in there. And there were things to be excited about there. I think it started out with people believing he was a good coach, and maybe towards the end he had lost the plot a little bit. But I think people do recognize that, at the time it felt like it was definitely the right hire. And so understanding that, it like him making those comments about how we were the only ones who interviewed him, that made me think, whatever cliche you want to say, casting a wide net, whatever, it made me think they're going to interview a lot of guys, both maybe off-the-wall guys that we haven't heard of, or candidates that maybe aren't like the hot names, but also, they're going to do their due diligence and bring these guys in that are the hot name, maybe retread candidates, or the guys that are sort of synonymous with the program the way John Harbaugh is. So I think this is kind of par for the course, and I feel like that's what the list has kind of showed us to this point. You got a guy like Dan Pitcher, who I don't know that we really all knew that much about, but somebody who has a relationship with Andrew Berry from their time coming up through the league. And it's like, okay, I can see that. And he worked with Joe Burrow, so there's some insight there. You have a Dirty who nobody really had known about, or wasn't really talking about. But then you also have, somebody like Todd Monken, who's pretty well known around the league. You have, it sounds like, a Mike McDaniel on their list of guys that they're interested in. You have your two internal guys, Jim Schwartz, who's well known, and Tommy Rees, who is that hot coordinator. So it does sound like, at least at this point, they are truly trying to get a very diverse group of guys in here to interview across the board, whether they're known commodities, lesser known commodities, and just kind of seeing what the best fit is. And so from that standpoint, I think that's probably the right way to go about it for sure.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that, doing their due diligence across the board. I'm kind of in the mindset of what type of archetype do I want, right? And for me, I really want somebody that can look at this and just be a CEO. I don't know what that looks like right now. And I've been thinking about that whole position of leadership and what, the archetype I want and what that looks like on the surface. And I really got to thinking about, myself in my younger days, because leadership and being in a position of power, it looks different, depending on where you work and what your job is. But the intangibles, in my opinion, is all the same. What I mean by that is when you're promoted to that position of leadership, sometimes people get stuck in doing the things that got them to that position, not realizing that what you did to get to that position, now more is required. And I remember being 23 years old, coming into a supervisory role with the city of Cleveland, Earl B. Turner Clerk of Courts, right? And I was one of the younger supervisors that he had ever hired. And when I got the supervisor role, all I kept doing in the beginning was the things that I did to get myself promoted. And quite honestly, I struggled as a leader. I didn't know how to really delegate. I didn't know how to really empower my staff. I didn't know how to really communicate with everyone that was up under me on an individual basis. It took time to learn that communication style. It took time for me to learn how to empower them, to delegate the task that I was also gun-ho on. I need to do this because I only trust me to do this the right way. And so when I think about me going through those peaks and valleys of learning how to become a leader, it shapes my thought process on, what do I want for the Cleveland Browns? I want somebody that is a leader of men, somebody that can hold people accountable, somebody that knows how to hire the right people on both sides of the ball, empower those people, and trust those people to be able to do their job. And right now, we don't know if that's going to be a retread, somebody like myself and like you in other situations who might be given their first opportunity to lead a group of people, or, somebody that just was recently fired.
Well, I guess, so as you think through those things that you want in a coach, though, is there somebody right now that stands out to you where you're like, this is the guy?
I mean, easily John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Easily John Harbaugh. Because he's had a lot of success. He's won 180 regular season games. He's won a Super Bowl. He has the most playoff road wins in NFL history. He's won this division 6 times. He's competed in the AFC Championship, I think, 12 times?
4 times. 4 times in the AFC Championship. 4 times in the
AFC Championship.
And they won the one Super Bowl.
Won the one Super Bowl, right?
I think you were confusing with they made the playoffs 12 times in his 18 years. Yeah.
And so you look at that, 15 seasons of at least a 500 record or better. Okay? Familiarity with the AFC North. A guy that has roots to Northeast Ohio. A guy that, from the people I talk to who cover the Baltimore Ravens, he is very, very competitive, and he is somebody that's always up for a challenge. And according to Mary Kay Cabot's reports, he has mutual interest, or seems to be interested in the possibility of coaching the Browns despite, what our issues are.
Yeah.
And so, okay, that's somebody who possibly may want us back, which is always a bonus. Somebody who has ties to this area. His mother is from East Cleveland. Shout out to the people in EC.
My great uncle, I told you about my great uncle before, who played in the NFL. He went to Ohio State. So, he dated the Harbaugh's mother because they both went to Shaw High School.
Well, look at that.
Now, they didn't obviously end up together. She ended up with Jack Harbaugh, but so yeah, my aunt's told those. My aunt has told the stories before about like how he dated her.
So based on who I want, the first name that easily pops in my head would be him. There's other guys that is on my list, and we get to reveal in our list, and it'd be interesting to hear who our fans have on their list that we might not have heard of yet. But yeah, that's the guy that's at the top of my list.
Listen, we can sort of talk through more of the other candidates next segment. But to me, I think you hit the nail on the head with John Harbaugh being the head guy, the guy that should sort of be at the top of the list. And I'm the same way, man. Like I think here's what I think about when I think about this organization. And, first and foremost, like, people are already sitting here and they're like, on the outside looking in, and we know internally there's a lot of context here, but like outside looking in, there's a lot of people who are like, why did they fire Kevin Stefanski? He's not a bad coach. And they're seeing him get interviews elsewhere, and they're like, how does this guy even available? Like, the Browns really fumbled this one. If you want to get like an upgrade or somebody that people will say, okay, so you fired Kevin Stefanski, but you got that guy. John Harbaugh is the easy guy that you point to and say he's an upgrade. You upgraded that position or that role. Now, it goes beyond that, though. Like, to me, John Harbaugh is a culture builder, which you alluded to. He has the leader of men piece figured out. I know there was talk about how he lost the locker room in Baltimore. I think some of that just comes with the territory. You're there 18 years. You're there almost 2 decades. At some point, like, your message just is going to get stale, I think. And I think that's probably what happened there. But a fresh start, a new perspective, a new place, I think that all kind of, I think that's a wash. Like, I think it's good that he kind of gets a chance to do that. I can't, like, if the Browns hired John Harbaugh, they knocked this hire out of the park, in my estimation. Like, to me, you do whatever it takes to get him. I don't care. Like, we heard Jimmy Haslam on Monday standing there talking about how he thinks the idea that there's dysfunction in their building, he hates when people say that word, and it's not true. And he was emphatic about it. Like, he was really
he's using his hands and everything.
He was emotional during that press conference anyway. But then he got real loud. Like, he really perked up when it was having that conversation because he wanted everybody to know, don't say we're dysfunctional. We're not dysfunctional. You want to know the way that you prove people you're not dysfunctional? You do whatever it takes to get John Harbaugh. You've done that before. You did whatever it took to get Deshaun Watson. That didn't work out. But, like, I mean, maybe it's not just money, but, like, we know he's not afraid to throw money at a problem. He'll throw money at it. He'll throw years at it if he has to with John Harbaugh. Whatever you have to do to convince. If a John Harbaugh says, I want to bring in my own personnel staff, fine, you fire Andrew Berry. I don't care. This organization has been a laughingstock for the better part of 2 decades since they came back in '99. You want to know the way that you get people's respect and you become relevant again? You hire John Harbaugh because people look and say, now that's a good hire. He can actually bring this organization back to prominence like they were pre-99 when people talked about the old Browns. That's how I feel about it.